All right, welcome to another episode of Closers or Losers, here with our host, our CEO, Matt Ryder. How is Sydney, Australia? You're working from home today, man, not even in the office.
Yeah, man. Mondays and Wednesdays I'm in the office, and it is Thursday today.
Just strolling so much, doesn't even have to go in the office anymore. All right, so today we want to talk about an interesting subject. And a lot of people, we always talk about subjects that people ask us that we notice in the DMs and on our YouTube channel and just various places, ads that always ask us. And we want to go over a subject that I think so many salespeople have been hoodwinked into believing that somehow they need to change their personality depending on their prospect's personality. So talking about selling to different personality types, right? Now, I think a lot of us have read books. I know back in my sales career, I read tons of books that said like, oh, there's 6 types and there's always different versions, or 6 type of personality types, or there's 4, or there's 10 or whatever. And there's this type and there's the analytical and then there's this and then there's this. And then when you recognize what they are, you need to shift over here and sell like this. And I was always intrigued by what they said, but then when you tried it in real life in the trenches, it just didn't really work that well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, sweet. So, like, I've never really had a problem. Like, I think when I was more of a novice, newbie salesperson, I definitely found sort of that more dominant type personality more difficult. But it's because I let myself get slapped around by them. Yeah. And I think that when I started learning from you, and I started learning like how to use my tonality and my pacing, just keep control of the conversation without it being like who's a more alpha male contest. I just don't really have a problem with it.
Yeah. No, I love, listen, here's what I found. When I did more research on books I read by, sales trainers, whoever they were, that wrote about the 6 different personality types. Most of the time it actually wasn't sales trainers. Most of the time it was more, different types of psychologists, and they had different theories. And I'm like, this is a really good theory, but it's not duplicatable. Like, you can't take the 6 types of personalities into a company that has 300 salespeople and expect all 300 salespeople to know within the first 5 minutes if they're dealing with an analytical or this type or this, or a white type personality or a yellow type of personality. So you can't.
Yeah, you always find I remember getting questions from people. They're like, so how do you analyze what type of person? It's like, man, if you're thinking that, you're going to miss what they're saying, and then you're going to miss their problem. Then you're not going to be able to get their real solution. Then you can't take them through a genuine consequence. Then you can't get any urgency, commitment, or close the deal. Yeah. Good Lord.
I literally never paid attention to the personality. Now, here's one thing I did change a little bit. So let's say, especially when I got into like B2B, more of a complex sound environment. And let's say I was dealing with, after the first call, after let's say 20 or 30 minutes of discovery call, I could tell like, hey, this person's a little bit more analytical than normal. So in my presentation, I'm going to go over a few more facts and figures. That would be about the only thing I would change. But my questions were all the same. The way I opened them were all the same. And surprise, surprise, got the same result no matter what the personality was with most of those closed deals. I think the biggest thing is that you take that type of sales process in and you try to teach salespeople in a company how to read personalities in the first 5 or 10 minutes. They're not even listening to what the prospect's saying. They're going to get confused. They're uncertain. They don't know what to do, and it's over. You might have 1 or 2 salespeople that somehow magically pick it up, but 99% aren't, and you cannot duplicate. That is the major weakness of trying to sell to the personality.
This brings up an interesting point, which I think we've spoken about before, but probably not on the podcast, which is personality profiling for salespeople.
Let's talk about that.
I know you have probably a different take, because I know a lot of recruitment agencies. I know a lot of people, people that we used to send people to a recruitment agency. Yeah. And they used to do personality profiling. Yeah. And I remember the reason why I stopped the relationship is because, these people are not good fits. And I said, but I've taken 10 of the people that we sent you, put them in businesses, and they're now making $50,000 a month commission. They go, no, they must just be easy offers because we did the personality testing and they're not real salespeople. I was like, but they're very skilled salespeople. And they were like, no, but their personality profile says that they're not good salespeople. I was like, but they are.
Well, they're making lots of sales.
I couldn't. Yeah, like what's the only metric in which you can accurately judge a salesperson? How many sales they make?
How many sales they make, right? No, I think it's on a faulty assumption. Most of the models I've seen that they believe that great salespeople are more extroverted. And what I found is it's not really true at all. I think, like I said, I actually think, I mean, here's where I come from this. I feel like I'm almost freaking Tom Brady when I talk about like taking personality tests, because the first sales job I went and applied for before I got my first door-to-door sales job where they hired me. And that was just because of straight commission and they just hire everybody. But I remember I went to Larry H. Miller car dealership in Salt Lake City, Utah, where I was going to school. And they had us take this personality test. That was the first time I didn't know what was going on. I took this personality test to see if I would qualify to be a salesperson. And they said I wasn't meant for sales. I remember after I came out, they're like, yeah, it's not a good fit. You're just not, based on the personality test, you need to be more in like operations or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not cut out for sales. And then, a year later, I'm the #1 salesperson in this next industry out of tens of thousands in the entire nation. But that's a whole, hey, Larry H. Miller, if you're listening to this, sorry. So, personality tests don't necessarily tell you the truth, but I think it's based on a faulty assumption that to be a great salespeople, you have to be extremely extroverted. And what I found is that extremely extroverted people, we actually have to teach them how to slow down and stop talking so much, right? Because it kills their deals.
Yeah, I think like any sort of extreme, actually, I think the best salespeople are people who are able in the call, not their natural, because my natural personality, I'm quite extroverted, quite loud, stuff like that. But on a sales call, it's very much like, hey man, how can I help?
Yeah, you've learned how to like low key it. Yeah, you've learned how to neutralize your personality, right? That's what we have to teach extroverts. Now, what I find is introverts are really interesting because a lot of people flunk personality tests for sales that are introverted. But I find introverts are extremely talented for this reason. They know how to follow a structure. They know how to follow a process. And sales is really a structure and process, especially NEPQ, neuro-emotional persuasion questions, from connective questions to situation or problem awareness to consequence commitment, all of it. It's a structure. So that's how their brain already works, that they need to follow that structure. And we just have to teach an introvert how to humanize it. So they're like a human, not a robot.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we have to teach introverts. We have introverts, we have clients that make 30, 40, 50, 60 grand a month that used to be computer programmers.
Yeah, I mean, we have some of our own sales reps, like they're just so different personality wise.
Yeah.
And so like when we're coaching them, it's like, okay, like one of our guys, Brian, just so flat.
Yeah.
Right. Like his natural tone is super detached and very stone faced.
Yeah.
So when I was coaching him today, I go, I want you to be the most over the top, enthusiastic salesperson you could possibly be on this next role play.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey man, how are you? And it's like, he's like, oh, that felt so weird. And I was like, okay, so that's you being a normal person.
Yeah.
So you need to feel like you're over the top because like you're so neutral. You need to.
You're like below neutral.
Like you don't care about them.
Yeah, you're like below neutral. Yeah, you're too far south.
Yeah, you're like, I don't care about you.
Yeah.
So we overdid it. And then I have other reps who are like, okay, I want you to be like rude to them.
Yeah.
And like, they're these nice Canadian people who have never been rude to anyone in their entire life.
Right.
And then they go like, they just talk normally. And I'm like, okay, see that is a great tonality. That is a great presence to have in a call. And they're like, oh, I felt so bad. I'm like, bro, you were like a nice person.
Yeah.
It's like, so like they're just different personality types. And that's why I think coaching is so important, right?
Yeah.
Because like if I hadn't have been coached by you, I was such an aggressive salesperson.
Yeah.
If you hadn't have been like, okay, you're up here and that's great. But let's bring it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's bring it down the middle.
Then from there, you can start to have, because like if you're always up, then if you need to take it up, it's very difficult. Yeah. And if you're always down, if you have to take it down, you can't take it down any lower. So in the middle, you have that ability to play with your tonality to where you can get the response that you want.
Yeah. And I read a book maybe a year ago. I can't remember what it was called, but it talked about extroverts, introverts, and there's a new type of personality they've discovered. Now, who knows if that's accurate, but it's called the ambivert or ambiverts or something. And it's one that can be both. And that's me. So I took the test and I'm right in the middle. So I can be introverted. I can quite literally go up on stage and do a keynote in front of 7,000 people and not even have like I don't even get nervous. It's like really easy. It's normal. I go up and talk to 7,000 people, and then I can leave that stage and go sit at dinner by myself and not want to talk to anybody and be completely fine. I can be extroverted and introverted. I can just, like a chameleon, either or. So I'm more in the middle already. So we teach extroverts how to slow it down, go more in the middle. We teach those introverts kind of raise it up a little bit in the middle, and that's a good combination.
I just think that, the important takeaway is like, whether you are an A, a B, a C, or a D, or whatever I think when I did the test, I was a D and an I. I was like really high D, really high I.
Yeah.
Right? So like from the DISC assessment, I think it was. So I was told like by a recruiting company, you were a prototype salesperson.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm DI. But then like, I took that and I was like, yay. But then I've realized over time, I was like, it doesn't matter. It's just, you just got to find people who are willing to follow a process.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking to prospects, if you're spending all this time worrying about what kind of person they are,
trying to read that,
miss what they're saying.
Oh, you're going to miss it 100% of the time. It's not reality when you're in the trenches. If you're a salesperson that cold calls or door-to-door, outbound leads or inbound leads, trying to read that prospect in 5 minutes, first of all, you're not talented enough yet to even know how to read that. Because that's like when you're talking about reading a personality, you have to be able to read their tone. It's not just what they're saying, it's what does their tone mean? That takes years of experience to be able to read tonality from hearing it, right? Because they could be saying something, but their tone is telling you that that's not really what they mean, right? And it's also a massive skill to learn how to read a human being's body language. And so being a regular salesperson, reading a book about 6 different personality types, and you got to figure all that out in the first 5 minutes, good luck. Probably not going to work out great for you.
Everything would have to be so automatic at that point that you can actually consciously sort of do that. It just seems like a lot of hard work when you can just say the words, do the process, and you're not going to sell everyone anyway.
Yeah.
I think one of the important things is you can't sell everyone. So all you can do is have a process that works a good amount of the time.
Yeah.
And maybe not spend 10 years of your life formulating a plan to sell that one prototype of person. That's impossible to sell.
No, it's true.
What would you say was like, was there a type of person when you were selling that you were like, oh, this will be interesting? Like straight away you could tell this will be it was always like the A-type.
It was always the A-type personalities that were big machos. It was typically men that were A-types that were like really in your face, right? Now I knew how to disarm them, but it was always like, I could just, eventually I could read the tone, right? When they answered the phone. Let's say I'm calling them on the phone, it's an A-type, like I can read the tone just because of my experience at that point. So it was always that A-type personality that you could tell just wanted to get straight to the point. Well, how do I disarm them to let their guard down so I can help build a gap in their mind? I can't just tell them what we do and tell them the price. It's over at that point. So the A-type personality was always the personality that I always like, oh, this is going to be interesting. What about you?
Yeah, I think sort of similar. I like using humor. So I like kind of disarming people with humor. Yeah. One of my favorite disarmings was like when people are really stuck in on price.
Yeah.
And I would do my deflection that you told me, which is like, hey man, I'm more than happy to kind of go through all that with you, but at this stage, I don't really know enough about you or what you're doing or your business to really even tell if what we do could work. So if it's okay with you, I'll ask you a few questions, find out a bit more, and then from there we can go through it. Like, would that be okay? 95% of people are like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right? And the 5% of people are like, no, like, give me the price. And then what I would do is I would go, what do you do for a living? They'd say I'm a mechanic. And I'd say, how much to fix my car?
What would they say?
And they would go, what kind of car? I go, man, I don't really have time. I just need to know how much. Most of them would then go, yeah, I get it. And I go, man, sometimes you gotta learn a little bit about people to know if you can actually help them to figure out.
I love that analogy, dude. That's freaking golden. I love that.
And it works for everything. But then from there, sometimes people would go $1,000. And I go, perfect, because I have a completely rusted out 67 Shelby Fastback that I need totally restored. And if you can do that for $1,000, I'll pay you right now. Send me your wire details.
That's brilliant,
and they would go,
dude.
Oh, yeah, I get it. And whether they're an accountant, I'd say, how much to do my taxes?
Yeah.
I'd say, sweet, I have 37 companies. You'll do it for $500? Perfect. Right? It doesn't matter what it is. physiotherapists.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Like that analogy is like, it's just a fun way of going like, dude, like I have to know something about you.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I like that.
Help me out.
Yeah. And yeah, that's brilliant. Actually, you write that down. I'm going to use that sometime and train our reps. But another way that I like to, if they're like, well, just tell me how much it is. And I can tell you if I mentioned it. I just agree. I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. We can go through all the details for sure. Now, just so you're aware, and it depends on what you sell. So let's say if you sold life insurance, it's going to be a little bit different than if you sold a car compared to if you sold cybersecurity, right? So, but let's say life insurance. Oh yeah, for sure. I'll go through all the details. And just so you're aware, the carriers are going to have me ask certain questions about like your health, your age, like prescriptions you're on, and those type of things. Just to see what we could get, what you'd be eligible for. Because until I know that, there's no way I could even know what to tell you. And then once I know that from just a few questions, I can go all the different options that we have for our clients. Would that help you better? Oh yeah, for sure. See, I'm telling them why the questions would help them, right? So they're like, oh, well, the questions are going to help me, the prospect, not help the salesperson.
Yeah, because I only sold programs that had set prices.
Yeah.
Like, and they knew they were set prices.
Yeah.
I sort of like had to figure out a way to
a different way.
They're like, well, you've obviously only got a couple of options. And I was like,
yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I only had one. So
yeah.
Like, yep.
Yeah. If you're,
it's difficult.
If you're in that type of sale that you're talking about, you have to do it more like what you did. If you're in something that's, more like there's multiple different options, kind of you do it what I would do there. Because then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, for sure. Or let's say if you did like, if you even asked us as a sales training company, well, just tell me how much the training costs on type of image. Said, well, oh yeah, for sure. I'll go through all the details. And just, we don't have like one training program with one price. We have like 26 different training programs at different prices. So it all depends on kind of the industry you're in and like what you're making now compared to what you're wanting to make. And once we understand all those details, I can show you the different options that would actually cause you to sell more so you can make more, now. Would that help you if I went over that? They're like, oh yeah, sure. Okay. Because that makes sense to them, right? It's benefiting them, not me, type of thing.
What's I sort of know the answer, but what's the psychology behind saying like, would that help you?
Because it puts it more like I'm asking them that question. I'm asking the questions in order to help them. Because if I don't understand what their situation is, I don't know how to help them. So it's more like they feel like I'm asking the questions in order for me to know how to help them the most. And if I don't have any answers, I don't know what I can do for you. That's the psychology behind that. Now you don't say, would that help you? Would that help you? Would that help you like 7 times in the conversation? Because then it sounds weird, right? So you gotta relanguage that. Does that help or does that make sense? Or are you with me on that? Like it could be different versions of that. You just have to relanguage it. Make sense?
That's super powerful. And if people wanted to learn more about this,
let's do it. Yeah. So hey,
style of selling, where would they go?
You want to start getting, weird, crazy like results over like getting punched in the face all day by your prospects. Because I don't like getting punched in my face. Go to our Facebook group. So let's have them start in our Facebook group. They can just go to salesrevolution.pro. In the Facebook group, we got about 50-some thousand members in that thing. That thing's blown up very quickly. So we got about 51,000 people in there or something like that. I don't know, give or take. And right when you join, check your messenger. We'll have somebody on the team message over a free training called the NEPQ 101 mini course. Just a list of different questions you can ask for different sales situations to help you sell more. We give you little nibbles in the Facebook group, little hors d'oeuvres, little hors d'oeuvres,
teasers, as they say.
Some crab meat, and then we give you a little bit of lobster and some little what's some other like caviar sometimes. And then if you want more advanced training, to help you sell in your industry, just hit us up in there, and you can book with the team member, and they'll go to the different training options if you want to sell more. So salesrevolution.pro. Matt, thanks. Stay out of trouble. I got to get out of here. I'll see you in the next episode. See you guys soon. Bye. See ya. Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're gonna help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.